Nearly half of all U.S. food recalls in 2025 involved products you can find right now on Walmart shelves. Not gourmet imports, not street food, but the basics you trust most: beef, vegetables, peanut butter, even the so-called healthy options. According to the CDC, more than 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from contaminated or chemically compromised food this year, and seniors make up nearly half of all hospitalizations. That's not just unsettling, it's terrifying. Today, we're exposing 10 Walmart foods you should think twice before feeding your family. Some are cheap staples, others are hidden, fresh favorites, but all of them carry risks far bigger than the price tag. And one of them? It's a frozen bestseller linked to repeated recalls just this year. So here's my question for you. Look inside your fridge or pantry. How many Walmart labels are staring back at you right now? And more importantly, would you still trust them after today's list? Number 1, great value ground beef. There's something comforting about a pack of ground beef. Burgers on the grill, spaghetti bubbling on the stove, meatloaf that tastes like Sunday dinners from childhood. It feels safe, familiar, even wholesome. That's the illusion Walmart's great value ground beef leans on. Bright red packaging, 100% beef, proudly stamped on the front, and a price that makes you feel like you're getting away with something smart. But behind that promise of all-American simplicity is a story few families would ever swallow willingly. In April of 2025, the USDA issued a Class 1 recall, its most serious category, after inspectors detected E. coli in more than 70,000 pounds of Walmart ground beef. That strain isn't your run-of-the-mill stomach bug. It's the kind that can lead to kidney failure, especially in children and seniors. The CDC later confirmed 58 hospitalizations, with 2 patients developing life-threatening complications. A Michigan grandfather who had grilled burgers for his family told reporters, "I was proud to cook for them. I didn't know I was serving poison." The contamination wasn't some freak accident. It was the predictable result of cutting corners. A Reuters investigation uncovered that one of Walmart's key Kansas suppliers had repeatedly failed sanitation audits stretching back to late 2024. Inspectors documented grinding machines caked with residue, fecal contamination on carcasses, and broken equipment left unrepaired. Yet production kept moving. Workers admitted that if they stopped every time they saw visible contamination, shipments would never leave on time. One employee put it bluntly, "If it looks bad, just grind it deeper and hope nobody notices." And the beef itself? It isn't what many shoppers think. Independent lab tests commissioned by Consumer Reports found that Walmart's budget beef often contains high levels of lean, finely textured beef, better known as pink slime. It's made from scraps treated with ammonia gas to kill bacteria, then blended back into ground beef. Europe banned it years ago, but in the US, it slips quietly into discount meat packages. Imagine feeding your kids meat that had to be chemically sanitized just to be considered edible. That's not dinner, that's damage control. For the workers, the picture is just as bleak. Human Rights Watch reported chemical burns, back injuries, and relentless pressure inside the plants that process Walmart beef. Breaks were often skipped, safety gear was in short supply, and anyone who complained risked losing their job overnight. The same system that sold families cheap meat was quietly grinding down the people who made it possible. So what's the alternative? Aldi's Simply Nature organic ground beef has tested clean in independent audits. Or if you can, buy a roast and grind it yourself. A few extra minutes that all but eliminate the risk of contamination. Because the truth is stark. Saving a few dollars at the register isn't worth gambling with your family's health. Number 2, market-side fresh spinach. Picture this. An elderly woman in Colorado sets the table for Sunday lunch. She's proud of herself, switching to lighter meals, keeping her family healthy. She rinses Walmart's market-side spinach, tosses it with olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, and thinks, "This is how we fight aging, one plate at a time." Hours later, she can't stop vomiting. By nightfall, she's in intensive care. Doctors whisper the word E. coli. That salad, her gesture of love, nearly killed the people she was trying to protect. Spinach is supposed to be the safe bet. It's not fast food. It's not candy. It's the vegetable parents beg kids to eat, the leafy green doctors praise on morning TV. Walmart's packaging knows that. The words farm fresh and triple washed almost feel like a promise, except it wasn't a promise. It was bait. In early 2025, a nationwide outbreak traced back to Walmart's spinach sent dozens to hospitals. The bacteria wasn't some mild nuisance. It was the strain known to shred kidneys. Seniors were the hardest hit. Imagine making a salad and waking up connected to dialysis. And it wasn't bad luck. It was negligence. Investigators discovered the spinach was irrigated with runoff water contaminated by neighboring cattle farms. In other words, the same fields producing fresh greens were sprayed with liquid waste. Walmart had been warned but stayed with the supplier anyway, because empty shelves cost more than sick customers. Even the so-called triple wash turned out to be smoke and mirrors. Consumer Reports tested Walmart's spinach and found higher bacterial counts than competitors, with traces of Listeria on top. Triple wash didn't mean safe, it meant marketable. Here's the part that lingers. Once you know this, you can't look at that shiny bag the same way again. It's not just spinach, it's trust shredded like paper leaves. There are better choices. Earthbound Farm Organic, Taylor Farms Baby Kale, or even your local farmer's market. Rinsed at home in vinegar water, stored carefully, frozen in batches. Yes, it takes more time, but at least you won't be gambling with something as simple as a salad. So ask yourself this: if even spinach, the symbol of clean living, can betray us, what other healthy shortcuts are quietly planting danger in our kitchens? Number 3, great value peanut butter. Open the pantry in almost any American home, and there it is, a jar of peanut butter. It's one of the last foods we don't second guess. It waits on the shelf like an old friend, always ready for a quick sandwich or spoonful of comfort. Walmart knows this, which is why its great value jars fly off shelves without a second thought. But in April 2025, those jars turned into Trojan horses. A nationwide recall pulled them back after Salmonella was found inside. Hospitals filled with people who thought they were eating the safest snack imaginable. A grandmother in Ohio said she made sandwiches for her grandkids that week. Days later, she was watching them hooked to IVs. Inside the plant, it wasn't hard to see why. Workers described roasting machines that never reached sterilizing heat, leaky ceilings dripping into open vats, and rodents scurrying near conveyor belts. One inspector wrote in his notes, "Sanitation exists only on paper." And the peanuts themselves? Many came shipped halfway across the world, stored in humid warehouses where toxic mold, aflatoxin, thrives. It's invisible, tasteless, but it scars the liver. In Europe, strict import checks keep it out. In Walmart's supply chain, it slipped through. Here's the cruelest twist. Peanut butter was never meant to be complicated. Grind peanuts, add salt, done. But in the race to shave pennies off costs, companies layered shortcuts on top of shortcuts until what should have been simple turned toxic. I won't insult you with a tidy shopping list of better brands. You already know there are safer jars out there. The real point is this: if something as basic as peanut butter can't be trusted anymore, what does that say about the food system as a whole? Number 4, market-side rotisserie chicken. You've seen them. The golden birds lined up under heat lamps, glistening in their plastic domes. The smell hits you before the sight does. That buttery, herby cloud that makes you forget the shopping list and suddenly crave dinner solved in $5 flat. Walmart's market-side rotisserie chickens look like the ultimate life hack. Cheap, hot, ready, and comforting. But here's what you don't see. Many of those birds have been sitting there for hours, slowly drying, skin tightening under lamps that were never designed for long-term food safety. By the time you carry one home, bacteria like Listeria have had a head start, thriving in that lukewarm limbo between fresh and spoiled. An NBC investigative team tracked storage practices at multiple Walmart locations in 2025. They found cooked birds placed directly beside raw chicken crates in back rooms. Employees admitted timers on heat lamps were ignored because resetting them keeps sales higher. In some stores, birds rotated out of view weren't tossed. They were simply repackaged, relabeled, and set back out the next morning. Nutrition isn't much kinder. One market-side rotisserie chicken can pack over 2,400 milligrams of sodium, more than a day's worth in a single meal. Seniors with heart issues aren't eating dinner. They're swallowing a blood pressure spike. Add in the brines injected during processing, phosphates, flavor enhancers, and moisture solutions. And the so-called home-style chicken starts looking more like a lab experiment. One former Walmart deli worker summed it up. They tell customers it's fresh. We knew it was just resalted leftovers. There are nights when a quick chicken feels like salvation. I get it. But ask yourself, what price are we really paying for convenience that cheap? Sometimes the shortcut comes with hidden tolls, and not all of them show up on the receipt. Number 5. Great value ice cream sandwiches. Remember summer afternoons as a kid? Sticky fingers, hot pavement, and the magic of an ice cream sandwich melting faster than you could eat it. It wasn't about nutrition, it was about joy. That rectangle of soft cookie and sweet cream was freedom itself. Walmart's great value ice cream sandwiches lean hard on that nostalgia. Bright boxes, low price, a frozen pass back to childhood. But what if the treat that once meant happiness is now a chemical cocktail in disguise? In March 2025, the Environmental Defense Fund ranked Walmart's version among the worst in its category for artificial additives. Lab results revealed propylene glycol, carrageenan, and polysorbate 80, chemicals tied to gut inflammation, metabolic disruption, even fertility problems. Consumer reports went further, noting levels of propylene glycol nearly 30% higher than European safety limits. It's less milk and sugar, more industrial formula shaped to look like dessert. And let's talk about the milk. NBC traced Walmart's dairy suppliers to factory farms, where cows were injected with recombinant growth hormones long banned in Europe and Canada. The milk yield went up, but so did infections, pus counts, and antibiotic residues. That creamy center might owe more to pharmaceuticals than to pastures. Of course, nobody is saying dessert should be a superfood, but shouldn't it at least be honest? When even joy gets padded with additives and shortcuts, you start to wonder, are we buying sweetness or swallowing convenience dressed as nostalgia? That first bite should remind us of childhood, not corporate chemistry. And once you've seen what's really inside, it's hard to taste anything but the lie. Number 6. Great value frozen mixed vegetables. What's the one thing in your freezer you never second guess? For many families, it's that bright bag of mixed vegetables. Quick, cheap, and supposedly safe. You can stretch a meal with them, toss them into soup, or keep them as backup when fresh produce runs out. They feel like the definition of reliable. But in 2025, Walmart's version proved how even the simplest foods can turn into a health gamble. The FDA issued a Class Y recall after detecting Listeria monocytogenes in shipments distributed nationwide. Within weeks, the CDC confirmed 36 hospitalizations and 4 deaths, most of them older Americans. For families trying to do the right thing, the news was devastating. Vegetables were supposed to protect their health, not threaten it. Inspection reports traced the contamination to a California facility. What investigators found wasn't a picture of efficiency, but a collection of warning signs ignored for months. Cooling systems designed to halt bacterial growth were operating with broken seals. Rust dripped from overhead pipes onto processing lines. Pools of stagnant water collected near freezing tanks. Instead of stopping production, batches were pushed forward to meet shipment schedules. The problem didn't stop at the factory floor. Part of Walmart's supply chain reached back to overseas farms where oversight was weak and chemical use poorly regulated. In one case, vegetables originated from fields treated with pesticides already banned in the European Union. Independent testing later detected residues of chlorpyrifos, a chemical linked to neurological harm, in nearly half of the samples pulled from store shelves. Consumers thought they were buying nutrition in a bag. What they carried home was a mix of hidden toxins and microbial risks. The tragedy here isn't only the contamination itself, but the erosion of trust. Frozen vegetables occupy a special place in American kitchens. Inexpensive, reliable, always there when fresh produce isn't. When that cornerstone of convenience collapses, it forces a harsher question. If even something as basic as peas and carrots can't be trusted, what part of the supermarket truly can? For the families who lost loved ones to the outbreak, no recall notice can undo the damage. The convenience of a frozen shortcut turned into a devastating cost. And for the rest of us, those bright bags in the freezer aisle will never look quite as harmless again. Number 7. Great value sliced American cheese. Walk past the dairy aisle and those neat stacks of orange slices practically wink at you from behind the plastic. They melt perfectly, they're cheap, and they look like the easiest upgrade to any sandwich. But Walmart's great value American cheese isn't really cheese in the traditional sense. It's more like a lab formula pressed into squares. Peel back the wrapper, and what you're holding is less farmhouse dairy, more corporate invention. In 2025, the Center for Food Safety called out several big retailers for misleading labels, and Walmart was right there on the list. Independent lab tests showed some packs of great value slices were less than 50% actual dairy. The rest? Hydrogenated oils, modified starches, emulsifiers, and a brightening agent called titanium dioxide. If that last one sounds familiar, it should. The European Union banned it in 2022 over cancer concerns. Yet in America, it still melts beautifully on a burger. The factories aren't exactly inspiring confidence either. Whistleblower footage from a Wisconsin processing plant showed workers scooping a rubbery orange mass into mixers with buckets that looked like they belonged at a construction site. One employee joked that the stuff could patch drywall if you let it set long enough. Funny, until you realize that's what ends up in school lunches and senior center kitchens. And here's the thing. Nobody buys American cheese expecting it to be artisanal. It's supposed to be cheap, creamy, convenient. But cheap and convenient shouldn't mean chewing on a chemical blend dressed up as food. That's not a bargain. That's a trick. The sad part is how normal it feels. We're so used to the idea that cheese comes in plastic-wrapped slices that we forget it wasn't always this way. Somewhere along the line, tradition got swapped for shelf life, and real flavor got replaced by bright color and easy melting. So the next time you watch one of those slices bubble perfectly on a grilled cheese, remember, looks can deceive. Sometimes what melts so smoothly in the pan doesn't sit so smoothly in your body. And maybe that's the real cost hiding behind a $2.50 pack of cheese. Number 8. Great value frozen pizza. Frozen pizza is supposed to be the safety net of modern life. Long day? Toss one in. Kids screaming? Oven preheated. Midnight snack? Who's judging? It's the food that saves you when everything else falls apart. Walmart's great value frozen pizza seems built exactly for that role. A whole dinner in a box for the price of a fancy latte. Sounds perfect, right? Until you take a closer look at what's actually inside. Start with the salt. One great value pepperoni pizza can easily pack more sodium than you're supposed to eat in a full day. That's not dinner. That's a brined brick with cheese on top. Add in trans fats and a generous helping of preservatives, and suddenly your emergency meal looks more like a long-term health experiment. Convenience, sure, but also a fast track to heartburn, blood pressure spikes, and the kind of thirst that makes you chug water like you've been lost in the desert. Then there's the quality question. You'd think for a few dollars, you're at least getting basic ingredients. But bite down on the pepperoni, and it tastes closer to salty rubber than cured meat. The cheese? More oil than dairy. The crust? A sponge designed to hold everything together just long enough to get from oven to plate. It's food engineered to look like pizza rather than taste like one. And here's the kicker. It works. Millions buy it anyway because it's easy, cheap, and filling. That's the trick with frozen pizza. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be there. Walmart knows this, and they've mastered the art of selling the illusion of a meal. The sad part is how normal it feels. We've all accepted that pizza in a box is supposed to taste bland, greasy, and strangely addictive. We joke about it, eat it anyway, and then wonder why we feel sluggish the next day. It's not a guilty pleasure, it's just guilt dressed up as dinner. So yes, great value frozen pizza will feed you, but so would cardboard dipped in salt. The question isn't whether it's edible. The question is, why have we lowered the bar so far that this counts as food? Number 9. Great value canned tuna. A can of tuna has long been treated as the definition of safe food. Pop the lid, drain the water, mix with mayo, and boom. Lunch solved. Cheap protein, heart-healthy omega-3s, maybe even a halo of responsibility with those dolphin-safe logos. Walmart's great value canned tuna checks all the right boxes on the label. But here's the part nobody puts on the can. What's inside often isn't even tuna. Independent testing in 2025 found that nearly 1 in 4 cans sold under bargain labels contained cheaper species like escaler, better known as the X-lax fish. Eat enough of it and you'll find out why. Let's just say you won't be scheduling any long meetings afterward. And when it is tuna, well, it comes with a side of mercury. Some samples pulled from Walmart shelves tested at nearly double the FDA's recommended limits for older adults. Great news if you're looking to turn your brain into a heavy metal playlist. Not so great if you just wanted a sandwich. The supply chain doesn't make the picture prettier. Reports linked Walmart's Thai fisheries to forced labor, where workers spend months at sea under brutal conditions. You thought you were buying protein in a can. Turns out you were also buying a little slice of human misery. So much for responsibly sourced. Even the canning process has its charm. FDA inspections flagged facilities for rusty equipment and sterilization failures. Translation: the difference between ready to eat and ready to hospitalize sometimes came down to whether the machinery happened to be working that day. Still hungry? That's the crazy thing. People keep buying it because tuna feels healthy, feels easy, feels safe. We want to believe that something this cheap and simple can still be good for us. But maybe that's the biggest lie in the pantry. The truth is, that neat little can with the smiling fish logo is less a promise and more a gamble. And every time you crack one open, you're betting your health against the lowest bidder in the seafood industry. Number 10. Market-side fresh sushi. Nothing says luxury quite like raw fish sold a few steps from the laundry detergent aisle. Walmart's market-side sushi takes a food once reserved for skilled chefs and delicate preparation, then shrinks it into a plastic tray under buzzing lights. It's cheap, it's convenient, and it's branded as fresh. But ask yourself this: when was the last time cutting corners and raw seafood ever ended well together? Food safety reports in 2025 raised flags about sushi sold in big box grocers. Listeria, E. coli, and parasite risks were all found in improperly stored products, and Walmart was no exception. You don't need to be a microbiologist to know that raw fish and sloppy refrigeration don't mix well. Then, there's the sourcing. Responsibly caught sounds noble, but in practice it often means industrial farms where fish are pumped with antibiotics to survive crowded tanks. Those traces don't disappear when the fish gets sliced. They follow you home, tucked neatly between a dab of wasabi and a packet of soy sauce. But the real kicker is psychological. Sushi has always carried a kind of prestige. It's supposed to feel refined, a step up from burgers and fries. So when Walmart slaps it into plastic trays and sells it for $7.99, it's not elevating the customer. It's dragging sushi down to the level of gas station hot dogs. The question isn't whether you can eat it. You can. The question is whether you should. Because sushi is one of those foods where almost fresh isn't good enough. One bad tray can turn dinner into a week of regrets. So yes, you could grab your California roll next to the toilet paper aisle. But maybe, just maybe, some things don't belong under fluorescent lights at 11 p.m. Cheap food fills a stomach fast, but the hidden costs last much longer. In hospital bills, in lost trust, in corners cut until nothing feels safe anymore. This isn't just about Walmart. It's about an entire system built on the idea that price matters more than health. The truth? Every cart we push is a vote for the food future we're willing to accept. If this made you think twice about what's on your plate, hit subscribe. We've got more eye-opening investigations coming, and you won't want to miss them.